Everyone ignored him. He was the smallest, most overlooked character in the entire town. A tiny figure in a world of giants, it seemed. Whenever he tried to speak, his voice was just a whisper lost in the wind. When he offered to help, people would just pat him on the head, chuckle, and walk away, leaving him standing there, feeling smaller than ever. "He's just too little," they'd say. What could he possibly do? He'd watch from the sidelines as bigger, stronger characters got all the attention and praise. Day after day, it was the same story. Laughter followed him like a shadow, and doors were gently closed in his face. It was a lonely existence, being the town's forgotten footnote. He tried to join in their games, but he was always picked last, if at all. He'd offer ideas, but they were dismissed before he could even finish his sentence. All he ever wanted was a chance to show them he was more than just his size. He had a big heart and a clever mind, but no one ever bothered to look close enough to see it. He spent his nights looking at the stars, wishing for a single opportunity to prove his worth, to make a difference, to finally be seen. Then, one day, the sky turned dark. A shadow fell over the town, a monstrous rumbling beast of a problem that no one had ever seen before. Panic erupted. The biggest and bravest characters tried to fight it, but their strength was useless. The smartest ones tried to outwit it, but their plans all failed. Everyone ran, hid, and despaired. The town was frozen in fear, their usual heroes powerless and defeated. The very people who had always been in the spotlight were now just part of the terrified crowd. It seemed like all hope was lost. The giant problem was just too big, too powerful, too overwhelming for anyone to handle. The town's strongest protectors were knocked aside like toys, their confident boasts turning into whimpers of fear. The clever inventors saw their gadgets and traps smashed to pieces. Desperation hung heavy in the air. People huddled together, whispering that this was the end. The laughter had stopped, replaced by the chilling silence of defeat. But when all the giants had fallen and all the loud voices had gone quiet, one tiny figure stepped forward. It was him, the one everyone had ignored, while the others had relied on brute force. He had been watching, thinking, and noticing things no one else did. He saw a small, almost invisible weakness. A tiny detail everyone had overlooked because they were too focused on the monster's size and strength. He didn't have muscles or fancy gadgets. All he had was his courage and a plan. A very clever, very small plan. He darted through the chaos, a blur of motion that the big, clumsy monster couldn't track. He wasn't trying to fight it head-on. He was smarter than that. He knew he couldn't win a battle of strength, so he decided to win a battle of wits. He moved with a purpose that surprised everyone who happened to see him, a tiny beacon of determination in a sea of fear. He scurried up the side of the towering problem, unseen and unnoticed. He found the tiny, critical spot he had identified from afar. With a final, determined push, using a small, simple tool he'd crafted himself, he triggered a chain reaction. The giant, fearsome beast sputtered, faltered, and then collapsed, completely neutralized. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, final click. Silence fell over the town once more, but this time it wasn't the silence of fear. It was the silence of pure astonishment. As the dust settled, everyone saw him standing there, small as ever, but looking 10 feet tall. They hadn't just ignored him, they had underestimated him. The crowd slowly started to cheer, a quiet ripple that grew into a roar of gratitude and admiration. The very people who had laughed at him now lifted him onto their shoulders, chanting his name. He was no longer the smallest character in town. He was their hero. He had shown them that it's not the size of the hero that matters, but the size of their heart and the sharpness of their mind. From that day on, whenever a problem arose, big or small, the first person they turned to was their small cartoon hero, the one who taught them all that the greatest strength can come in the smallest of packages. He finally got the respect he deserved, not because he changed, but because he finally had the chance to show them who he was all along, and he never had to eat lunch alone again.